Okay, so hello everybody. As I'm your usual suspect, and you're here from Etcher Lab today with the one and only Justin Donaldson.
Hey, how's it going?
I saw that there are people from all over the world in the chat, so
Oh
please go
yeah.
ahead, go on the chat, tell us where you're from. We're so happy you're here. And right before we start, I want to pass this off to Justin and just observe the magic from afar in my little country. But before we start, I just want to say, if you can, grab the link, put it on your social media, send it to friends, grab everyone you know to watch this live. If you like your friends and you want your friend to be able to get a 24 half pen set watercolor from Etcher Lab, you would invite them here because if your guys are here and in the chat, you might win one at the end of the session.
There you go.
And you're going to learn a lot about gouache from Justin. So go ahead, please share the link and get your friends over. Stay until the end for the giveaway of the watercolor set. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat. Just write the word question in all caps so I can easily see it and grab it. I will be copying all the questions throughout the live, and then I will pass them along to Justin to answer at the end. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say before we started. We're going to come back next Friday again, this time with Mark Brewer. I'll give you more information on that at the end. But for now, I think I'm going to shut up and pass it off to you, Justin. How about that?
That sounds good to me. Fantastic. So yeah, today we're going to be using some gouache. I've actually got a mixture between gouache over the side and post color up there. Poster color is kind of the wild west of the gouache. It's a little less regulated. It's a little more crazy, but there's a couple of really good brands. So I like to use Nika, and I used to like to use Shinhan. But essentially, if I was doing this with gouache, I'd do it exactly the same. So you guys feel free to follow along with just whatever you're using, whatever you're comfortable with. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to paint a landscape. This is kind of call them proto landscapes. They're very kind of basic, very simple, very fun. They're a really great place to be using, kind of just practicing our techniques in a way that it's satisfying because it's actually a painting at the end. We're going to be doing something that I call wet to dry. Essentially, the whole painting is going to go from a stage of the page and the paint being wet and slowly getting to a point where it's dry. Now, it's really easy to make hard edges and hard marks in gouache. And if we're not careful, that's kind of all we'll be making. But I actually want to be showing you guys how to start with something that's really soft. Having slightly more rendered state, something that's, feels like there's a lot more movement to it. And to start that, we're going to be wetting our page. This essentially means that we're increasing the time period where the gouache is active and able to move around. And I'm currently using a Perfect Sketchbook. Mm-hmm. It's perfect. And
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. If I were to put my 2 cents in, I'd also be going for a hot press Perfect Sketchbook, but they don't exist currently. Just saying.
Yeah, the Perfect Sketchbook hot press, no, but we are doing a signature series that's Fabriano paper, and that will have hot press as well. We're doing
count me in. Okay.
Special.
So I've wet the paper. There is a sheen on the top. You might be able to see. Highly reflective when there's water actually on the surface of the paper. And we don't want to paint just yet because the paint will scatter on the surface. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about what we're doing while waiting for this to settle into the paper. What we're going to do is we're going to first make a sky gradient. And so I'm going to put this white in and then bring a blue back down. As I brush the blue, it's losing pigment off the brush, and it's going to make this really nice natural gradient that goes from sort of a darker blue to a lighter blue. Because when you're looking at the sky, down near the horizon, you're looking through more atmosphere, and so you get a lot more of that kind of white. There's often this sky gradient, and then we're going to put some clouds into that sky. It's going to be really fun. This is the technique is generally called charging. When you put sort of wet paint into wet paint and you move it around, it's really fun. You can actually use it for a lot of things. So I enjoy it a lot. And then I'm going to be painting a gradient down here that's kind of essentially going to be some fields. And then we'll come in with some mountains in between, and it's going to be really nice. It's going to be really nice. So I'm actually going to...
just letting everybody know that the reference image for this is in the video description, and I also just pasted it on the chat if you guys would like to check it out.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we're going to be creating something like that. It's a little of a chaotic process, and so it might end up a bit different, but it is essentially going to be the same. So I've actually sped up this process because we don't have much time by taking some of the water off the top.
And can you reiterate again why you put water on both sides of the paper?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Because if I put water just on one side of the paper, then there's an uneven amount of moisture, and the side that has moisture is going to sort of move up like this. And then you start to get bends and curves. And so this is the way of getting it wet without having it buckle. And it might buckle a little bit. I'm just going to put some on the bottom. That's going to extend our period. There we go. So what we're going to do now is grab some white. Grab some white over here. And when we're painting and we want a smooth transition, it's always going to be smoother if we're actually painting into paint. So that's why I'm putting some white in here. It's when I start to pull this blue in, it'll actually be smoother because it has that chance to move within the paint rather than just acting on the paper. But I'm going to leave a bit at the top that doesn't have any white. And so that means that I can put that blue down and not have it diluted by the white. So let's go ahead. We're kind of on turbo mode at the moment. So I've got a cerulean blue right here, which I'm going to just throw in right at the top. Really beautiful color. It's not too dark. And so that's really nice. And so you can see our paint's already starting to sort of interact with this white that's down the bottom. And just get this really nice, smooth gradient. Really beautiful. If you're ever unhappy with your gradient, and it's perfectly reasonable to not have a perfect gradient to begin with, you can grab something like this as a mop brush. Really fine hairs. No single hair is producing a ton of pressure onto the paint, and you can kind of come across and...
It's dry, right? It looks dry.
Yeah, completely dry. I'm not adding paint at all. What I'm doing is moving around the paint that's down. And because everything's wet, we can actually start to move things and blend things like you would in say, oil. And you don't normally get this chance in gouache unless you're being very intentional about the kind of level of moisture you got. So I just want to get a little more intensity right at the top.
People are loving your accent, by the way. I just
felt
compelled to say it. Yeah.
Oh, they could guess where I'm from. I don't think we said where I'm from, so
no. Let's get them guessing. If you listen to Justin's interview in our podcast, you will know. Go to enrol.com/Donaldson and you'll see
that. How about that? Yeah, so like I said before, there's absolutely no reason that you need to feel like you need to get things perfect to begin with. But I think this is kind of good enough for now. And what I'm going to do is grab one of our brushes. This just happens to be an etcher brush. Funny that. And I'm now going to go in and start to actually kind of like remove some of this. And I want to do this quick while everything is still wet. And if it's all wet, the edges they're going to be really soft. And that's kind of what we're after, because you have these clouds, these massive, beautiful clouds that have really soft edges. And so I'm kind of, just moving it around. If I get enough water in there, I can actually, instead of having the brush meet the paint, I'm pushing a layer of water in front of the brush so that what is interacting with that paint is not in fact the brush and creating an edge, but the water. And that's always going to make a softer trend, a softer edge. So really, let's get a nice big cloud up here. Right, so it's going to create a softer edge, but it's not all that white. So let's do that. And then now we have a chance to, I'll put some like shadows underneath just by using some of the paint that I've picked up here. And as the clouds recede back, you can get to see sort of more of these horizontal structures underneath the clouds, really.
Wow. It's really shaping up. Amazing. And you're just using one color so far, pretty much. Okay, with white.
Yeah. Just one. Okay, now I'm going to come on in and grab a round brush. I'm going to grab a lot more white.
Chat is raving, saying they already learned some great tricks.
Oh, good.
Thanks, Nell.
That's what I want to hear. So yeah, throw in some white in here. We can start to get a sort of sense of direction. And I'm gonna have the light come in from this side. So basically all of these structures that I put in, I'm gonna put a sense of white. I'm being careful not to do it exactly on the edge of where the cloud is, because again, I want those really soft edges. And as we go, this whole thing's gonna dry a bit. Making sure that I have enough water in here, because I really want to go for that charging technique where the main texture is coming from paint on paint rather than brush on paint. Obviously, you got to use your brush to make it happen, but yeah, really, really nice stuff going on. And as this all dries, it ends up actually kind of toning down in value. As gouache, any kind of water media actually dries, it all comes to more of a mid-tone. And so we have this chance to put the paint down, it'll dry and sort of get a little bit darker, and then we can put another layer on top and kind of give ourselves the chance to make the big shapes. And then it dries and it comes down, and then get into the more of the details of the highlights. Right, so that allows us to just really focus on one thing at a time. So now coming in with a bit thicker paint, a little more white, and working not in such big areas, just some highlights in the middle here. So yeah, this one actually, it's panning out really well. Sometimes this stuff happens and it feels natural. Sometimes it's a lot of work, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do is, because we're going to have a mountain range in here, and it's going to sort of come on top of some of this stuff, and I want it to have a really hard edge. So I'm going to actually just put a little more atmosphere. That's going to give me more space to play with.
One quick question, because it's relevant to the moment. Is the paper still wet at the moment?
Good question. It is still in a state that I would say activated. So if I put the paint down, the paint's still going to move around. It's not as saturated though. So activated, not saturated. I'm actually come in, because we're going to do another gradient down here in just a sec, and put a little more water there. A little more water. Yeah, just playing with this stuff. I want to put, more stuff coming down so that I have more space for these mountains to be without it looking a little strange. And actually, while we're here, I want to put some clouds in the background. So actually a little more white just in some of these highlights. You begin to see these relationships as it all pulls together, and it's okay to go back and try and fix up some of the relationships. You can't really expect yourself to get it perfect to begin with. So I'm going to put a cloud that feels more in the background here. The more we can add what feels like layers in depth, always just the better.
I'm getting all the questions, guys. Keep them coming. And I will bring
Fantastic.
them all when it makes sense, even if it's at the end.
Okay, so I'm going to put a little more paint down here. Like I said, we're waiting on these mountains because we want that hard transition between the edge of the mountain and the sky in the back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to use a completely different brush. Otherwise, I'm putting blue down. All right. So actually, you can't see it here, but I have a number of different pots of water because this blue is really, it's really strong. So the minute I put it into one thing of water, that whole thing is contaminated. So I just use that for the blue. And then the white kind of does the same thing. If I ever want to put water down, I make sure I have one for some of the strong colors, one for the white, and one that's hopefully going to remain clean. I say hopefully because that is not always what happens.
Paint has a life of its own.
Absolutely, it does. Okay, so now we can start to think about this gradient. Now, as things recede back into the background, they actually lose value. That means they get lighter. And so the beginning idea, right, is we're not creating every detail all at once. We're sort of breaking things up. So we're going to deal with the front to back quality of it. We're going to have a darker green at the front and a lighter green at the back. And then probably, we've got a whole bunch of clouds. So there might actually be some like light gradients just kind of peeking through onto the grass. Actually make it feel like there's a lot of good depth there. So I'm going to grab some yellow, mix it in with my cerulean. And let's see, we'll start with that. The good news is kind of I've re-wet this. So there's some lenience in time. Oh, that's a pretty intense green right there.
I love it.
There's some lenience in time. So I can bring this in and come back a little bit later and change things if I want. So gouache is really nice that way. And now I want this darker. I'm going to try and work into it. I think this came across a little transparent for at least the vision in my mind for what this should look like. So we'll probably come across with a little more opaque quality to it. So, okay, so I've got this darker green. And that is relatively transparent too. So we're going to start with this and see where we go. I'm thinking we might end up redoing it, which is fine. There we go. So I've got a little bit more white in this mix that I'm currently working on. That's going to be a lot more opaque. I'm going to put it down. There's a chance that I probably should have taken off some of the water on the surface. That's okay. There we go. So that's, some degree of this. Actually, I feel like we're going to work at it just a little bit more. I'm going to make
Beautiful.
more of a highlighted strip in the top. What was it, Anya?
I'm just saying it's beautiful. I'm just mesmerized. I'm sorry. I'm echoing the chat. I'm the spokesperson for the chat.
Fantastic.
Everyone is loving it. Beautiful, 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 Justin.
Thank you.
So you added water to your Nicker paints, right? From the beginning?
Yeah. There's a bit of water there. Let me have a look. They dry. Just like gouache, they'll dry. So,
oh my God, you're brave.
And so it's really whatever consistency you want them to be is where we end up with things. I'm try and rework some of this green at the front. I think I want it a bit warmer. There we go. This is going to be hopefully a bit nicer. Okay, so that's pretty nice. We'll possibly come back in again. There's always give and take. But the good news is if you're working in this fashion, you really have the chance to, stop and think about things. And I'm going to have it get a little bit darker as we go to the top, because as we go to the top, we're sort of reaching these mountains, and I'm going to pretend like there's maybe some shadow cast on the grass, this big grassland. There we go.
So smooth.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it nice? Sort of once you're able to get to the point where you can do that, I can create these smooth things, and then it's really communicating this depth, right? The sense of like vast movement. And I've done that without any detail whatsoever at all. And then I can come back in a little bit later. Probably, I'll do some of these mountains, and I'll come back in, and it'll be in this kind of semi-moist area where I can put down information that's not going to be crisp, but it's going to hold its shape. And that's going to be a really nice space to be in. So let's have a look. I've got this kind of, it's a bit of a cobalt blue, white, and just a touch of red. I want that kind of like slightly purpley mountains. I think if we had a little more time, I'd maybe wait for this.
Yeah, we have all the time you have.
I can see some of the edges in the back are not quite doing what I want them to do. Plus, as I'm looking at, I think, let's try it. Yeah, this is maybe a bit better value for the stuff that I want to be in the back. And so I'll start with this. We'll just go for it. And I might put a little more edge, a little more thought into the edge control a touch later. Okay, so we're gonna have, since we did this, we're gonna have two mountain ranges, right? One's gonna in the background, and it's gonna come up and forth over here. And then this one's gonna be closer to us. And you can tell it's closer because it's basically the same thing, but the value is darker. And so it really just communicates the sense of being closer to us.
Cool.
And I'm not going to worry too much about all these peaks because I'll come back and throw them in. But what I am going to do while things are still a little bit wet is, sorry, actually, these going up just like a little bit up each time is a little, I don't know, generic. Doesn't feel that great for me. But so we're going to do that. Make it a little less. Okay, so now that it's there and it's wet, I can come in and put some of these shadows in. And since it's a little moist, I can kind of, not worry too much about having these hard edges. We're really just thinking about these big forms. So like we're in these mountains. We're just making stuff up right now, but we're in these mountains with these, crevices and cracks. And I suppose the one thing you got to, be concerned about at this point is that we don't want these shadows to be actually all that dark. They are far in the background. But we want these really nice, cool shadows to be somewhat descriptive of what's going on in the mountain range. So we know that light's coming in from this side, so most of the shadows are going to be on the edge.
I love how with so little details you're showing it's not detailed yet, it is.
Absolutely, it's fake detail.
Yeah, beautiful.
In fact, the more fake detail you can put in, the absolutely.
I love this fake detail. My new favorite thing ever.
Yeah, it's all pretend. And so it comes back down to the idea of, there is detail, in art in general, but there's kind of a certain degree of communication. Like everything we do is communicating. And there's a hierarchy. There's, kinds of information that's really important. And some of that is the value that we're putting in and some of these beautiful kind of color harmonies. And that stuff is really good. And I can get a lot of mileage out of just these very few ideas. And so it's like, no, I'm not putting in a bunch of details, but I'm putting in the important information. And learning that important information. It's a long process to be able to like cast out the things that are not important and understand and realize what is important. But it's so vital to just not wasting your time, which, you know, we only ever have really small periods of time to do our work in. And
True.
once you figure out what's important, then you can mess around with the stuff that's not so important. So like a lot of color is actually not so much important. It doesn't tell us a lot of information. It might make us feel things, but in our brain, as we're looking for information, we're looking to understand what we're seeing. Color doesn't play as big a role in that as, say, something like shape or value. And so we have a lot of leniency with our color. And so if we get all of our shape and our value down and right, and communicating really well, then we can do whatever we want with our color. And that's exciting.
Yeah, basically when everything is important, nothing is anymore.
Exactly. Okay, so we got some of that stuff in. I want to put some of the shadows in this here as well. So
passing some chat vibes to you. People are saying this is really relaxing.
Oh, fantastic.
And that they want to go and try gouache now.
Oh yeah. There's a learning curve. It's a little bit tricky when you first began. If you listen to the podcast that me and Anya did, there's, you know, a lot to say about the fact that I didn't actually like gouache when I first tried it.
I love that.
But
you used the word hate. You hated gouache when you first started.
You're right. I did.
Amazing. And now look at what you're doing. I hated children's books.
Oh yeah?
Now it's what I do.
Why is that?
I think I hated it because it felt so overwhelming and repetitive, and I didn't fully understand what it was.
Yeah.
Then I tried it. Then I got to understand exactly what it meant, and I fell in love, and I want nothing else now.
That's how it goes, isn't it? So now that I've kind of started to communicate that these mountains are in front, I feel like I need a little bit of shadow coming down here. And everything's still, you can see that, you know, everything's still really wet. So I can come in with some of this green and really start to pull that in. I kind of want to make it a really cool color. Just see how much I can get away with kind of pulling in some purples into there. I'm going to grab, once again, kind of a dry brush. You know, some of this stuff's not, I want it to be there, but to not really command our attention, so we can sort of get rid of some of those edges that aren't so important.
We have so many folks painting alongside.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And I'm guys, please, if you can share with us your pieces, tag Justin, tag Etcher on social media. We would love to see what you're doing.
That would be amazing. I'm kind of wanting to put a little more detail now in here. Maybe some streaks where the light's coming down and hitting some of the grass. Some just little gradients that are coming in, but it's, you know, there's something that we can say about having a pattern that repeats and changes in perspective. So if I can have these small, sharp little pieces of light that are coming in. Actually, that didn't work very well.
While you're fixing that, just my normal shout out, Justin, you will be hosting a mini workshop. It's a $5 mini workshop with us at Etcher. I'm pasting the link on the chat. If you guys enroll in Justin's $5 mini workshop, we will give you $10 back to spend in our art supply store.
Oh, how about that? That's cool. So I got like lots of little strokes going acrosswise here. And as it comes down, I want these strokes to get broader, a lot wider. And because that's just what happens in perspective as things move around. So I'm going to grab some of this and make our kind of widest stroke come on in here. And again, this still isn't really detail. It's more detail because they're smaller shapes, but it's not detail in the kind of classic sense of it. Here we go. Again, kind of smooth out some of these edges.
Just feels.
What's that?
The feels.
Yeah, it's all about that I don't know, the emotional reaction to it, that vibe. And so now that I've done this, and especially with this one up here, I'm going to make a second stroke that comes on in that's going to be even more intense.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to really feel like a spotlight. And probably, yeah, let's do another little one in here. Make it feel again like a spotlight just by putting in a little bit and kind of dusting it off, feathering it off. And we want to have the same pattern that repeats. That's going to help us communicate depth.
Wow.
So really, yeah, I'm really happy with how this one's turning out. Okay, so we've got that down. We're always constantly evaluating kind of at what stage of where between wet and dry is the whole paint. And I can probably get some sharper edges here at the moment. So I'm going to come back in. They're not going to be super sharp because it's not completely dry. You know what, scratch that. That might not be. I think I maybe got this paper a little more wet than I was anticipating, which is okay. Okay, so what we're going to do now is kind of do a very similar thing in the mountains, have little bits of light, right? So I want them to be highlights, to be there. Now is actually a really good time because they're not, I want them to be subtle. So I want them to sort of soak into the paint just a touch. So it's kind of almost the opposite of what we did with these shadows. All right, we're putting a little bit of light of it in. Because it's direct light to some degree, it's always going to be sharper than a lot of these shadows are. So you put little patterns in, just kind of, again, always thinking through really what's going on in the mountains. And the more we can imagine it, the more we can kind of, do these beautiful little bits, just the better. This is where we start getting into at least a little bit of detail.
Interesting. Great questions coming in from the chat that I will.
Oh, here, let me fix up my camera.
Hey, camera.
Yeah, it turned off for a sec. I think it's about to turn back on again.
No problem. And off we go.
There we go. Zoom
See, we
in.
hadn't had a single technological issue. This is not a natural live demo without technological issues.
That's right. That is right.
Okay, yeah, looks good to me.
Did that flip?
No, it's all the same.
Oh,
I think it's a little bit zoomed out than before. I think it was a little bit more zoomed in a while ago.
Well, let's zoom it on in.
Perfect, yeah.
Focus it. There we go.
Wonderful. Can you push the sketchbook slightly to the right? Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay. So it's good. Actually, looking at the screen, I can see some things I want to do. I'm going to make this just a bit softer. I'm going to come in and fix some of these edges over here. I think we're ready for it.
How do you know when you're ready for that?
It's all about water, sort of water levels. If the sort of reflectivity of the water is going down and it all feels a bit more dry, then I can come in and put strokes down that actually sort of keep their position and keep their degree of sharpness. So with this particular kind of wet to dry technique, there's always that play. And really you could say that's with the technique, but it's really actually just with any kind of water medium. You know, every single stroke you do actually goes through the process of wet to dry. And so becoming aware of when something is wet and when something is dry is just, and where it is that in that stage and how it's going to act if I start to put things down or put things into it. The kind of understanding and focus that's really going to help us just move forward and being able to do stuff. You know, like there's this kind of sense that gouache is really, you know, dedicated to hot edges and really flat surface quality. And it's just because people don't always know exactly where to begin when they're trying to make something smooth or even just kind of wet and wet. Any kind of wet and wet technique it's intimidating to people, and I completely understand that. You can see also we're coming in with some hotter kind of mountain shadows in here, and they're keeping their position as opposed to like spreading out. So this stuff is just so much fun.
Just a reminder for the good people on the chat, if you'd like to learn from Justin, he's doing a workshop on wet to dry, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Going more into this particular process.
Yeah, so if you want to know more about this, learn from Justin directly, subscribe to enroll in his workshop. There's limited seating. I'm putting the link on the chat. This is on September 18th.
Man.
Hey, camera.
Hey, camera, what you doing?
So yeah, just taking the moment to, there you go. Camera's mad at me every time I speak. She just like, nope.
Oh, you know what? That might be what it is. It tells it that it's like not actually using the camera. Technology
hates me, Justin.
That's how it goes.
So good news, when you learn from Justin, I will not be in the room. So the camera will never fail. So you guys can totally enroll. This will never happen.
Since when is that good news? All right. Okay. So enough of that. Well, I say that and then I go right back. I'm just trying to clarify. There's a little bit right here that's not really communicating well because it's dark and you're like, is that mountain or is that kind of grass or what's going on there?
Beautiful.
In fact, let's make that a little highlight.
I love how you make the decisions as you go along.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely always like a responsive quality. Like, man, you know what? Let's try this other camera I have going.
Yeah, camera, you're fired.
You are fired. Let's see, how do I do this?
Take this 1 minute break, guys, to enroll in Justin's $5 workshop, and you will get $10 back in extra art supplies. Link in the chat once again. Maybe camera is trying to help us sell tickets for Justin's course. Maybe that's what's going on.
Okay, that's the wrong camera. See this. Oh.
Gremlins, yes, Beth, definitely gremlins. Tech goblins. That's what I call them.
Okay, this is totally zoomed out.
Let me make the spotlight. Okay, we do see something, and it's flipped though.
Give me a sec.
Mm-hmm. To-do. Justin fixing everything with the nature brush on your mouth. This is beautiful. We should take a screenshot of that.
There we go. At least not flipped anymore.
Great. Can we zoom in?
This. Man.
For the voucher, so if you enroll in Justin's $5 workshop, you will get a $10 voucher via email. Oh,
I don't know if that actually helps.
It helps a little bit.
What do you think, Anya? Let's go back to the other camera.
Yeah. Well, the other camera keeps failing, and how far along are we?
I don't hear you.
Oh, you cannot hear me, which is great. Thanks, goblins. We will unveil the mystery of Justin's nationality at the end of the session. If we get to the end of the session. It's a game that we have right now. People keep saying, yep, keep betting on where Justin's from, where he's living. This is all good. You're cheating if you listen to the interview. Okay, we have our camera back. Let's go back to
anyone is saying for some crazy reason.
Wow. How lovely is that?
We had it all working before. Do you want to just keep talking? I'll just keep talking and painting. I see a slight nod. Okay, we're going to keep going. So now I'm going to start to put in some smaller shapes down here. Well, I'm actually going to fix up some of this. I feel like this shadow is not quite right. It kind of needs to sort of start to, sneak up onto this mountain a little bit. Right, we'll just keep it there. Okay, so now I'm going to come back down here. Now that it's a lot drier than it was, it's in a spot where I can start to put in some smaller details without putting some smaller details without it sort of going all over the place. So I'm going to grab, try and get a bit of a texture to what this grass is like in these spaces where these little highlights are kind of transitioning into the darker areas. Get some nice texture going there.
So lovely.
Now that we have the forms down, now we have like those really main key messages communicated about what the light's doing and what everything is doing. Now we can come in and sort of do these slight modulations in value and in color to really communicate detail. And put some highlights in.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Medium, beautiful medium shapes. And there as well. Just gonna make sure that I continually touch my camera so it doesn't turn off.
Oh, so that's what happened. Now we know.
Little bitty shapes. All right, so now I feel like they're kind of like glowing. That's a really nice feeling we've got going on. I'm gonna grab something that's slightly warmer and slightly darker than that, and put these details around the edges so that we have that kind of constant moving out. As it moves out, it gets a little warmer,
mm-hmm.
a little darker. All right, so I'm gonna actually kind of put a little, almost like a line right at the top to help communicate some of the depth and kind of actually lead it upwards into the mountains. We kind of always, when we have two objects connecting, it's always good to have some degree of communication, kind of like about the relationship between those two objects. Like how do these two things actually connect? And it's always going to make them feel more grounded and more like you can just sort of feel how they connect without having to like really think about it. And so having little kind of curves and movements that go in and out, it's just always really beneficial. So for example, we're going to do one down here, but it's going to be in the shadow. So I'm going to get a different kind of color going on.
Wow.
Like
I'm more talking to
mountains.
our love. Looking good, huh, guys?
All right, now we're gonna do a little bit of stuff down the bottom, just some, it's gonna be even darker than this here, slightly warmer still. That's gonna help to communicate just some degree of like, you know, pretending that this is like a 3D plane, that we can actually see a certain degree of depth down here, kind of into the stalks. Just going to give it an extra sense of depth. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush and kind of roll it up, get some really nice texture. Oh, apparently there's some white on the brush. So let's get a new fresh one. All right, here we go. And in fact, with this, if you can kind of keep the brush a little bit dry, apparently not that dry, then we can do some good stuff. I'm kind of like rolling it like this. Because that gives us a really nice sense of texture. And obviously, the further it goes away, the less we get to actually see that texture, and the less that we get to see into the grass. So it makes more sense that this stuff here is just like pure gradient. And the places where the light's hitting, it's got this really nice communicated texture. And the brain kind of fills in the rest of the details. It's really at points of transition that we have an opportunity to really communicate a lot of detail without worrying too much about kind of making everything detail all the time. Like Anya was saying, like, you know, if you focus on everything, you focus on nothing. So knowing that it's the transition points we can focus on really just helps us to figure out how to communicate the way we want to. All right, so I'm just going to do one more thing. Like we go on with this painting for forever. I'm going to add just a little extra highlights in here. These spaces here, these like big things are they're the spaces. They're actually still a little bit wet because we use a lot of water to move in and out.
Wow.
So they're still wet, so they're still not going to produce exactly super hard, but they're going to keep the white a lot more because the paint's not going to disperse as much. So it's kind of our opportunity to put in these final highlights. Some of these areas where the paint dispersed really a bit too much. So that we started to lose a lot of the form that we were communicating before. Oh, there we go. That starts to look really nice. You get some of that nice silver lining. All right, there we go. So we're gonna call that a day, at least with the painting. I'm gonna try and see if I can turn my sound off on my computer and just get on my phone.
Wonderful. While Justin is adjusting the sound, just a link one more time to Justin's $5 workshop.
All right.
Guys, there's limited seating,
Can I hear you guys?
check it out. Sound check.
Join audio.
Connecting to audio. Blah, blah, blah.
No, I can't hear you guys.
No?
Here, I'm going to drop out on the computer.
Okay.
And then I'll come back.
Okay. Because I'm talking, I think you guys can see me now. So while Justin is quickly changing this thing and coming back, because of course we love technology and we hate technology. $5 is his mini workshop next week. And if you guys enroll, like I mentioned before, just saying this to the newcomers, if you enroll in Justin's $5 mini workshop, you will get $10 back to spend on our art supply store. His mini workshop is limited seating, so I suggest grabbing your seat while you still can. We have sold out of these seats in the past, so wouldn't be surprised if this happens again. Hello, Justin. Can you hear us now? Link on the chat one more time. Tum, 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 tum. You are not connected to audio. You're not connected to audio. Beautiful technology hates me. I'm chatting to Donaldson, to Justin on the chat as well, while he's figuring out the audio issue. Oh, connecting. It says connecting. Sound. Okay, you're just muted. Can you hear me? Okay, we have you back. Beautiful. We're all good. Can you show us the painting one last time on the camera? Just put it up to the... Beautiful. Beautiful. And that was in 45 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay, we have questions for you, Justin. There's a lot of questions. Thank you guys for the chat. I'm just looking to see if I missed anything from the chat. I don't think so. I'm going to avert my eyes from the chat for a second to grab all the questions the good people asked. So many questions. Okay, the big difference between gouache and watercolor, Erica asked.
The big difference is that watercolor is transparent and gouache, for the most part, is opaque. That means that when you paint with watercolor, you can do multiple layers, and each layer you'll be able to see. So if I put paint down, I can see that, and then I put it on top, and now I can see two layers. I can see both of them, and then it continues like that. With gouache, it's opaque, which means that it covers over what you did before if you're using it opaquely, which means that I can put that one layer down, and then I can put another layer down, and I can't see the layer that's underneath. So that's really the main difference between the two.
Sounds good. Making sure. Okay, great. Next up. We have a lot of questions, guys, so I'm going to try to address as many as we can. Just quickly, because there were a lot of questions about our sketchbook, so I will address this one really, really quickly. We have 3 different kinds of sketchbooks. We have the Etcher Sketchbook, the Perfect Sketchbook, and the Perfect Sketchbook Signature Series. The Etcher sketchbooks are the white ones. Those come in either hot or cold pressed, 230 grams for cold, 220 for hot, and are 100% cotton. Then we have the Perfect sketchbooks. Those are it's better paper. It's also 100% cotton, but it's 300 gram and it's only cold press, 2 sizes A4 and A5. And the Signature series, so all of them were designed by Erwin Leon. The Signature series, those are limited edition. We do a drop once a year, more or less. We are going to have a new addition to our Signature series this year. We will have, adding to the cold press B5, we will have a hot press B5. And we are thinking those will be out in 4 to 6 weeks. Please subscribe to our newsletter to get an email with all the details once we are ready to launch. They are, again, limited edition. We don't have a lot. Think that's fine. Hey, Justin, can you do me a favor? Can you log in with your other camera just so I can spotlight your lovely face when you talk, just to make sure that people can see you? Because Zoom with sound is a little bit wacky.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's actually I was logging on my computer and it says, please wait, the host will let you in soon.
Oh, saw it.
Sweet.
Okay, good. Just so we can spotlight stuff. Yeah, when I'm talking, you will see my face. I'm sorry, guys. Well, I'll just spotlight Justin, and you're better served. And there you go. Okay, now actually, we want to hear from you, Justin. So I will just ask a bunch of questions. Do you advise? So Maxine asked, do you advise tube gouache over dry pen gouache, and does that make a difference?
Ultimately, it doesn't really make a difference. It depends on what you're doing. I honestly, if I'm taking gouache with me somewhere else, I'll put it in the pans and then I'll just reactivate it. A lot of people don't like the way that it reactivates, and I have the impression that's because they put the water in and they don't wait long enough and they don't kind of stir it in and get it the consistency that they want. So in my experience, I'm normally able to get the consistency I want, whether it's from a pan or whether it's from a tube.
Cool. Thank you, Justin. Another question. Do poster colors reactivate better than normal gouache? Wood Spirit asked.
I wouldn't say so. And if they do, it's fractionally better. Yeah, I have been able to get more and more good quality reactivation in my gouache. Just I think by the kind of attention that I give it and knowing what I'm looking for. And so I can't really tell a difference myself.
Cool. Doris and Danny asked the question about the paper. Is 100% cotton paper necessary for gouache? Cellulose, old cellulose paper, is that good? So what are your thoughts about the paper we should be using?
I generally use cotton. There's some vellum papers that work really well. The good news about gouache is that I'll probably get in trouble for a little less, especially if you have like kind of like layer on layer kind of technique where you're really building up a lot of stuff. In the end, you're painting on paint, and there's a little less distinction about it being important or not. But if you have a lot of transparent work, if you know some of the stuff we did ended up being a little transparent, and that's where it becomes more important for it to be cotton. So it depends on what you do.
Wonderful. Next question. Any advice on keeping colors from feeling muddy? Cam asked.
Yeah, actually I do. So there's two things to understand. The first is that anytime a color feels muddy, 90% of the time, it's about value, right? Instead of about being about hue, it's about value. So if your values are supporting the image that you're doing, it doesn't feel wrong for it to be unsaturated. And so your first attempt, even though it's tempting to say these colors are wrong, or perhaps I mixed too many colors in, your first attempt is to get the right value. And once you get the right value, things become clear. And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing, which kind of approaches it from the other angle, is generally always try to mix to your color, that your target color, with the least amount of other colors. So, you know, if I can get the mix I want in 2 colors, then I should do that instead of 3 colors. And the purity of the pigment is just going to be stronger. It's going to have a larger identity, color family identity. So you can tell that it's a blue instead of it being more kind of like a murky gray. But so that's getting your values right. That will fix most of your muddy colors. And then using the least amount of different colors to mix to where you're wanting to go. Those two things, you'll basically eliminate the feel of having muddy colors.
Beautiful. Cindy asks, is there a trick to checking? Wait, I'm trying to figure out. There a trick to checking what you have included, all the values you should. Okay, I think it's a value question. Is there a trick that you can, how do you check the values while painting? I think that's what Cindy was asking. I hope I got it right.
I'll check the values while painting. Oh, the first thing is to squint. If you squint, it eliminates a lot of detail. It also reduces, it clumps together like values in your eyes. And so you can start to see the values as they come on in. I mean, value is a really huge topic. And so I can't really go into like absolutely everything about it, but certainly in terms of checking your values, squinting is probably the most useful thing you can do. If you're having a hard time, if you're kind of at the beginning of your process of learning about all of this stuff, one other really good thing to do is take your phone and take a picture of your painting and then put a black and white filter. Now, the black and white filter is not going to be exactly value for value, but it's going to give you a really good idea about things that aren't working. So that's probably your other better way of checking your value. If that's all about.
Great. And one question that I got from your Instagram post, actually, someone was asking if the color of a cloud and the direction the cloud is lit is correlated.
Is what, sorry? The color and the direction?
Yeah, so where you lit the color versus where the light is coming from, where you add the whites and where the light is coming from, how do you make that call?
Yeah, yes and no. A lot of the time it's about the overall kind of scheme of what the sun is doing, which sounds like it's a yes, but sometimes that just means, what's the atmosphere doing? Like over in California at the moment, everything is yellow. It's because, there's stuff in the air and everything is going yellow. But there is a huge connection. For example, if you're looking into a sunset, the kinds of colors that you're going to get are going to be way different as if you're looking in the opposite direction of the sunset. Looking in the opposite direction of the sunset gives you a really clear, a lot of the time if you're dealing with really big cumulonimbus clouds, a really clear scale from going from, kind of like white, like normal light, and then the light that's going down is going through kind of more dense atmosphere. And so you start to get more affected by the atmosphere. So you kind of go from white to a yellow to an orange down to a red. And that really affects things. I'm not sure how much kind of like middle of the day where things are. That definitely affects the light of the sky, which is going to affect you see the clouds. Yeah, so it's a complicated answer to really and it will require some more observation.
Yeah, so if you guys want to learn more about gouache, again, please enroll in Justin's $5 mini workshop, and the link is in the chat. You should definitely grab a spot while there are still spots available. I have a feeling it will sell out. Let's see. To unveil the great mystery of all. So where are you from and where are you living? So many bets in the chat. Justin, please tell us.
Oh, what kind of answers did we get?
We got Tasmanian. We got definitely not Canadian because I'm in Canada. We got a lot of he's Australian but lives in the US or vice versa. We also got not Aussie because I'm Aussie and that's not an Aussie accent. We got maybe UK, maybe not UK. So all over the place, please.
All over the place. So I am Australian, but I live in the UK. But I'm kind of there's generally Australian. There's like city Australian and not city Australian, and I'm definitely city Australian, and I've lost a lot of my intonation. So Australians talk like this, and everything goes up at the end, and there's always like talk like this. But being in America, I kind of talk flat now.
Wow, thank you. So a lot of people were right. Guys, this is from all over the place. It was impossible. We gave you an impossible task. You could never guess it. Can we see the piece one more time, Justin? Can you bring the final? Beautiful. If you want to learn how to paint with gouache, guys, again, enroll in Justin's course. The link will be on the chat before we sign off. Now for the fun giveaway. Let me just get my face here a little bit. Wait, actually, instead of spotlight. Okay, hello. So we are giving away a watercolor set today, as promised last week. So please start commenting on the chat, and I will select I won't select anything. randomly select someone. That's the right wording. We will randomly select someone from the chat. So please start going on the chat and saying stuff so we can grab the winner. What else? While you're here, please, before we sign off, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get a notification next time we come live. We are coming next Friday exactly at the same time as today with Mark Brewer. He's a great cartoonist. He will use ink and watercolor and draw a really cute animal. Guess what animal he's drawing? Oh, so many guesses today. So yeah, so please come next week, and thank you for commenting on the chat. Let's grab our random winner. So I'm rolling, and Sarah Dawn is the winner. Hey, Sarah. So congratulations on winning a watercolor set. Please email us at hello@etchrlab.com. Tell us you're the winner. I will be checking the email for the next hour so I can get back to you. So please ping us and I will get in touch with you and tell you what I need from you to get the set. Okay, let's get back to Justin. Any last words before we sign off?
No, other than thank you guys for coming. Thanks for asking questions and figuring things out. You can follow me on Instagram at Justin_Donaldson_art, or on Twitter. I don't exactly know my Twitter handle, so you can just look me up there. But yeah, thanks guys for coming and hanging out.
Thank you guys. Thanks everybody. Can you put the art again just one more time, just so we have the perfect image for sign off? And thank you for coming, everyone. It means a lot. Here's the perfect, beautiful image and workshop. Please enroll in Justin's workshop. We will see you next time. Thank you again.